Okay, so Karima Delli is a member of the European Parliament, and more importantly for today, the President of the EU Parliament's Committee on Transport and Tourism. And Klaus Kreher is the Head of Carrier Management for Rail Europe. If you're not familiar with Rail Europe, it's the top website for booking inter-country travel, rail travel in Europe. So Karima, my first question is for you. One of your main objectives as a lawmaker has been replacing cars as our primary mode of transportation with trains and bikes. And so what is your path forward? What's the best path forward towards that today?
Hello, everyone. Hello. Come on. I am very happy to be with you today. Thank you for organizing this event, this beautiful and amazing event. Look at this. Really, thank you. First of all, my mission is very clear because I am the Chairwoman in Transport and Tourism Committee, and for me, one of the key, very important, and in my political agenda is the climate tickets. What is a climate ticket? The climate tickets responds to the double challenge, climate crisis and social crisis. When I say that, because it's a time to offer young people, workers, families the possibility of unlimited travel at low prices on all rail and metropolitan networks. That is to say, therefore, excluding high-speed rail. But at this moment, we need to create a new mobility scheme. That is to say, I'm calling for making rail transportation combined by bikes. Why I say that? Because I believe it's the first mode of transport replacing private cars. I repeat, replacing private cars. Because it's a time to say, we have, for example, in France, let me just a little story. In France, we have a big gap. We have a fracture between first, on the one hand, we have you have people living in the city with all services, with jobs around very important, ultra-connected and serviced by high speed. And the other hand is crazy. Because the other hand is people live from rural areas. And rural areas, we have only the choice between private car and faulty transport, faulty train. So the reason why I'm here to say is a time to the public rail suffered, yes, and so much from disinvestment is not a priority for the member states. That's the reason why I'm the Chairwoman and Transport Committee in the European Parliament, and my mission is very clear. It's time to push a real solution, and my real solution is to push a public policy by publics, transport, action, and rail, all combined. That's the reason why I'm very positive woman, because this solution, we have a good attraction in the several member states, for example, Germany, Austria, now in Spain, because we have a lot of friends from Spain. Thank you very much to be with us today. And for me, why not for the rest of in Europe? So I make a scoop in this room. I start a big campaign in France the next week, because it's a time to say is now. Another strategy, because I'm very impressed by the European Parliament. And just for information, also I voted a resolution on EU cycling strategy to will boost cycling in Europe. That is to say, we have a lot of means. We need only, for me, is a time to wake up. Wake up very concretely with action. It's not the time of the blah blah in politicals in the Europe. That is the reason why you see how the climate tickets allows us to treat our mind and change the way we will use. Thank you very much.
Can I ask a follow-up question just about the climate ticket for Karima? So is the idea that a climate ticket will be more affordable than your typical high-speed rail ticket now? Or how would that work?
At this moment, the very big problem in the rail is the price. Who pay? Who pay? And my idea is it's time to say we have a difference when you talk about aviation and the rail. That's the reason why aviation is a time to make effort. That's the reason why in the European Parliament we have two key very important. First of all, we need a single sky. We have an optimization of the plane. And the second is kerosene tax. Kerosene tax is one of very important, I believe, means tomorrow to push. But my problem is high speeds is too expensive. But my problem is why, when I take a plane from EasyJet, for example, Paris to Nice, only 20 euros. If I take the same in train, 80, I checked this morning, 88 euros. So people say what? My money, at this moment, I'm so sorry. I prefer take plane and no train, that's all. That's the reason why my second mission is to say tomorrow in the future, the ticket from the rail will be less expensive if you take a plane. It's very hard because the lobbying is very hard. So I need you. Today I need you. Because if citizens would like this, please sign the petition. Tell us to the government, because we need this, the most important mode of transport, the train, really. So please sign the petition the next week. I counter for you, huh? Okay, great.
Klaus, do you want to respond to that, please?
Yes, and great to see the audience here. It's really good to see smiling faces for such an important topic, to be quite honest with you. I just wanted to pick up the point Karima made about the climate ticket. And here is an example which was actually run last year, 2022, in Germany by the introduction of a so-called €9 ticket. What did that ticket do? For 2 months, people could travel literally for €9 as many times as they wanted on regional and suburban transportation, trains, etc. It sounds brilliant. It was an experiment and a pilot for the first time in Europe of this kind. And just to give you some results there, the research people did suggests that about 25% of travelers shifted from other modes of transport. 12% alone from road to train. They would have never considered this, you know. And this is something which we need to bear in mind when it comes to train and the so-called road to rail shift. It's an attractive service, attractive fares, and the convenience of booking the train ticket. That's what it's all about. And that really can drive a shift onwards to the railways. We at Rail Europe do an awful lot there because we provide digital tools of booking train tickets conveniently, easily across Europe. That is something the passengers want. They don't want to think really about the complexity of the train system, you know, combining a German train with a French train all the way through, ideally to Madrid. That's another Spanish train. They want it all from one basket, so to speak, one fare, one ticket, one timetable that does everything for them. That's the convenience which we need to achieve. And I think that are, let's say, the key pillars for particularly driving the shifts, not just from road to rail, but also from air to rail.
So on a related note, I think when it comes to traveling between countries, oftentimes, as Karima was saying, the impression is that it's much easier and even less expensive to travel by plane. I couldn't find any figures exactly on what the proportions are, but I think that's still the impression that many people have. So what can we do to, well, first of all, how did we get that way? How are planes less expensive than trains? And second, what can we do about it?
And thank you for this. Karima, you made a very good point, you know, when you did the price comparison, Paris-Nice, yeah, EasyJet, etc. But all is not lost. There is hope. And let me give you a few examples. You've probably heard about the Thalys Express services Paris-Brussels. They were introduced back in the 1990s. Effect, the share of rail on that route is 100%. No scheduled airline flies anymore. Good news. Paris-Strasbourg, TGV, 95% share on air for railways. And London-Paris, Eurostar, 70%. So things are developing in the right direction, not yet completely there. The EasyJet example actually points it out. I've checked some figures this morning on some recent developments in Britain, where, funnily enough, liberalization on the railways make an effect in the positive way. And I'm referring to Britain in this particular respect, because last year a new carrier called Lumo, you may have never heard of them, they're operating London to Edinburgh in Scotland, entered the market with the effect that the air-rail proportion has shifted to something like 50-50 on this route. To give you a comparison, in 2019, the proportion was actually 66% air, the other third was rail. So air has come down quite considerably because a new guy is on the block here, operating rail services cheaply in competition with Ryanair and EasyJet, lowest fare £15, conveniently, easy access through digital tools, and a very attractive onboard service, super modern trains, you know, they almost operate at high speed. So that's one particular effect, how this can be driven forward. You're right on the, you know, cross-border perception. Air is probably more convenient, or in people's heads more cheaply. To that degree, we also need to build out high-speed services across borders from France into Switzerland, Germany, Spain. It's all coming, but we also need to anchor that perception in people's heads. It's easily accessible, just like you're going onto Expedia for an airline. Go onto related websites and apps for the railways, and there's your ticket, commonly priced, and one ticket on your smartphone does it all.
Karima, please.
Yeah, I would like just to end just something very important. When I arrived at the head of my committee in the European Parliament, I was the first woman, so it was very hard, because in my committee, all the men would like cars and aviation all the time. When I arrive, I say it's a time to open the debate about the night train. Yes, the night train. So I make a campaign, I push a night train, and all in my committee say, ha, ha, ha. It's not a real mean of transport, the night train. But I'm very proud to say today, we have a European court by the night train, and yesterday night, we have this night train go to Brussels, to Berlin. So don't forget, the night train is the key to replace the plane. So it's the time to say now the member states, we need a more night train, because in France we have a 2-line. But don't forget, in 1981, France, we have 551 lines, 551 lines, 551 lines for the night train. And now we are only 2 lines. We are crazy? No?
It doesn't make sense.
Okay, it's not, yes, no sense. That's the reason why my mission is to say we can go where you want in Europe by the night train. So my mission is to push this night train. We have this new European court is the first step, because tomorrow I would like capital to have a night train. I hope, really.
Klaus, do you have other examples from around the world where that provide a good model for replacing air travel, car travel with train travel?
A very good point sometimes to look outside Europe. I agree with you, Avi. And let me quote here the example of Japan. We're going literally halfway around the globe in this sense. Picture this, the outline of Japan, and there is a high-speed backbone, so to speak, all the way from the south, Kyushu, going to Hokkaido, that's the northern island of Japan. To give you an example, that's 2,000 kilometers, which equates Paris to Stockholm. High speed throughout. Operated and shared by 4 different railway companies. Little known fact, but Japan has several companies, it's fully liberalized. But what the government has done here very clearly is to set a framework for these high-speed companies to work together, provide through faring, through ticketing, so that you can actually go from the southern end of Japan all the way to the northern end, if you like. So with the right framework and the cooperation of the railway companies concerned, and by the way, they fiercely compete with each other as well, but there is an example that you can make it work. Co-opetition is the name for this. It can be achieved, you know. And the shift is dramatic all the way to the high speed, away from the airlines. Tokyo, Osaka is a brilliant point here. I think the railways have essentially a 70–80% market share, you know, on a key route of Japan. And these railways transport on the high-speed line 350 million passengers a year. That's almost what is going on the high-speed lines of the whole of Europe. So there is an example to which we can aspire, get some lessons into our environment as well. Consider it an ecosystem ultimately. Everybody should work together, whether we as a ticket vendor do that, a ticket retailer, or the operators, then it can actually happen.
Great, yeah. And so what is stopping us in Europe from achieving something like that?
Yes, without going too much into detail, I see very much still a bit of a fragmented thinking here. Of course, we are nation states, but at EU level, we have some brilliant tools already, some concepts in place, the smart mobility strategy, the concept of the single European rail area, make it all one rather than thinking on a national level, so that the physical infrastructure, that's the rail tracks, can be put into place, interoperably, so that you can run your services across the border without any hindrance. That's one thing, but also put the digital infrastructure into place. Digital means, how do I get my ticket? Online, in apps, in station if necessary, and enable all these ticket retailers in the digital world to make seamless journeys. As I said, the example is always Warsaw to Madrid, one price, one ticket, one timetable, all available in the digital world. That's the convenience which we should actually strive for. We're not yet there, but this is the mission which we have to be to actually pursue there. And you know, for us at Rail Europe, that's our daily bread and butter. Technology created by humans for human use, and then people will change their behavior towards their habit as well. That train becomes the preferred choice of transport.
Fantastic. Karima, we have a few minutes left. I wanted to ask you about cars. You supported legislation in the EU Parliament that would ban fossil fuel-based cars after the sale of fossil fuel-based cars after 2035. That sounds great, but it's still 12 years away. So is it enough? Is it soon enough? How much of a difference is it going to make?
It is enough. I listen to the science. And the science say EPCC expert sound the alarm every year. Young people are here. Young people are. We have a lot of mobilization, the March of Climate, and international. You have Mr. Guterres. You know, who know Mr. Guterres? All people know, of course. What he say? He say, when he received the last report, EPCC, he say, this report is a red alert for humanity, so we need action. Now, that is to say, I want people to understand the European Parliament has arrived. It's crazy, but it's true. With a lot of intelligence work, an historic agreement. Is historic yes, agreement. We reconciliate car and climate. It's new. That's the reason why, for me, car and bikes, who were for a long time, not bikes, car and climate, a long time, I believe it were the enemy brothers. Now, this agreement is need to say the time is to change. But my problem at this moment is be careful. Electric car is not the solution of the climate. It's not the solution for the mobility. It's one of the solutions. It's not the solution. Be careful with this. And for me, we are late. We are late because, okay, we turn off fuel engines, but we are late for US and China. That's the reason why. How we can make a zero emission in industry tomorrow? First question. That is to say, is a time for European politicians to say no heavy electric vehicles. That is no sense if we do mobility only for electric cars. That's the reason why we need a lot of solution in mobility. Is bikes, is public transport, is really real, is very important for us to have a lot of solution and not only electric car. And my second question is, who pay? Because I'm so sorry, because if you are a poor family or poor people, you cannot, at this moment, to use this electric car. So we have a problem with this. That's the reason why my solution is to say, please, we need another alternative, is to say the retrofit strategy. You have a thermic car, we can open the door, you can change only thermic to electric, and the first step is to help poor people, first of all. My second solution is to say, if it's possible to have an intermodal solution, we can do that. For me, is the time. In France, we talk about petite ligne. You know what is it, a petite ligne? Oui. In Europe, didn't exist petite ligne. We have a problem with this. Never. I don't want to exist petite ligne. That is to say, we open this petite ligne because each people can take the train where we are. So we have a priority, we have an agenda, and we need to follow employees. We have a problem with this. training for employees for digitalization, a new electric mix, not only electric, but hydrogen, etc. And we be careful with the social dumping in the car industry, because you know what I said. I was born in the north of France. We close a lot of company, and people are very sad when you say, okay, the future is in your city, but tomorrow, after 2 or 3 years, we close the company, go to China another way. And this, for me, is not acceptable. That's the reason why, be careful with this. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Klaus, if you we have 1 minute if you want to respond to that, I think. Yeah, please do.
Yeah, before we finish early, thanks, Avi, for this. I think, to resonate what you just said, Karima, on industrial strategy, it is important, and I see, hidden competencies all across Europe here, be that in car manufacturing. We can nearshore. There's no, offshoring, nearshoring, going to China. That is something, a balance which we need to hit. Same in the rail industry. And I think we have hidden champions in the digital area as well. Ticket retailing, as I said, there is lots of homegrown potential from Paris to Stockholm to Berlin. London is in it as well. So I think altogether, I would say my plea is, let's bear in mind, we need a mix of transport elements for a seamless journey, bike, walk, scooter to the station if you like, but electric cars come into the mix as well. Trains provide the backbone because it provides mass transit, especially on the high-speed services in relation to air specifically. And then on the off point, you can take alternative transportation as well. And that makes a good door-to-door journey, and all available ultimately and supported by, as I said, digital elements, which provides in itself employment opportunities. We see it at Rail Europe all the time. We bring in young people as developers, software engineers, train them up. The shift couldn't happen fast enough, I know, but ultimately our future is there, and it could make a great mix. The framework is necessary. The EU has gone ahead already in terms of regulation or a conceptual and strategic framework. We need that to overcome national barriers, but also play our individual part as companies, as consumers, to bring this along. And I think that's what I really have in mind when I say ecosystem. The parts are interdependent, they move together, then it can happen. Let's be positive. This is our opportunity, together with challenges as well.
Fantastic. Thank you both.